When I say up here, it ain't down here. It was never down here like
it never came down here.
Gennia Grimes and Rogers McLeod Jr. had been in a relationship for some time. To outsiders, they looked like a regular young couple raising a baby and attending school. They posted pictures, appeared in videos, and were often seen together. Gennia was focused on her education and raising her son. Rogers was often close by, but few people knew the problems happening in private. According to Gennia's family, her relationship with Rogers was not safe. They shared that she had stopped using her phone because Rogers had broken it during an argument. He reportedly didn't want her speaking to certain people. Her cousin said Gennia had become more distant and often quiet during family check-ins. She had started showing signs that something was wrong, but she didn't speak about it publicly. Family members said Rogers once took money that Gennia had saved for school. That money was supposed to pay for her next semester at Alabama State University. After the money went missing, she couldn't register for her classes. This made her upset, and her relatives believed it was part of a larger pattern of control. Rogers allegedly used her money and often tried to limit her choices. There were also signs of emotional stress. Gennia was less active online in the weeks before her death. She had stopped posting dance content and limited her time on social media. Her family believed she was pulling back from the things she loved. She had dreams of finishing school and becoming a lawyer, but she didn't seem as motivated as before. A few days before the shooting, Gennia told someone in her family that she was thinking about returning to Atlanta. She didn't explain why. Her mother believed Gennia wanted to distance herself from Rogers. She had started talking about changes and was trying to focus on getting back on track with her education and her child's future. On the morning of March 27th, people who saw Gennia said she was quiet and seemed distracted. She didn't say much. She didn't smile. She left with Rogers and got into the car with him. That would be the last time anyone saw her alive. What happened in the next few hours changed everything. Behind the pictures and videos, there was a troubled relationship. The things that looked normal to outsiders were different behind closed doors. Her family tried to support her, but they could only help with what they knew. They never expected that the next time they would see Gennia would be in a hospital bed after a gunshot wound to the head. Before we dive in, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment below. Where are you tuning in from? What are your thoughts as this story unfolds? Your voice matters. These are real people, real tragedies, and real lessons we can't ignore. Share this video with someone you care about. It could make all the difference. Welcome to Unseen Crime Dossiers, your home for spine-chilling cases, haunting before mysteries, and deep dives into the world of crime. From jaw-dropping real-life events to groundbreaking forensic discoveries, we're here to uncover the truth behind the most gripping investigations. Step inside, examine the evidence, and lose yourself in the shadows of true crime. On March 27th, 2025, Gennia Grimes and Rogers McLeod Jr. were driving along U.S. Highway 80 East near Waugh, Alabama. It was a regular Thursday afternoon. The road was quiet, with trees on both sides and only a few cars passing by. At some point, their car stopped on the side of the highway. No one knew why they pulled over, but they stayed there for a short while. Not long after, a loud sound was heard, a gunshot. People nearby noticed something was wrong. When help arrived, they found Gennia inside the car. She had been shot in the head. Rogers was also in the car. He told authorities that Gennia had used the gun on herself. Emergency services responded quickly and rushed her to the hospital by helicopter. Doctors worked to save her, but the injury was too severe. Gennia was pronounced dead later that same day. The report said the bullet had entered from the left side of her head. It was a single shot. There were no signs of a struggle in the vehicle. The case began as a possible suicide, based on the statement Rogers gave at the scene. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office began investigating the case. They interviewed Rogers and collected evidence from the car. The gun was found inside. Authorities also reviewed camera footage and phone records. Their goal was to determine if her death matched his version of the story. Within days, their focus shifted based on inconsistencies they discovered. Gennia's family spoke with detectives and shared private concerns. They said she was right-handed and had never been trained to use a gun. This detail did not match the location of the wound. Investigators took this information seriously. They began reviewing forensic evidence, including fingerprints and gun residue, to verify what actually happened. The findings from the early investigation led police to believe the shooting was not self-inflicted. They stated that the story given by Rogers did not line up with the physical evidence. It appeared that the weapon may have been fired by someone else inside the car. This changed the direction of the case from suicide to homicide. Less than a week later, authorities arrested Rogers McLeod Jr. He was charged with capital murder and taken into custody at the Montgomery County Detention Facility. No bond was granted. The case was now officially listed as a domestic violence-related killing. Gennia's name was added to the list of young women who lost their lives inside their own relationships. On April 4th, 2025, Rogers McLeod Jr. was officially arrested by law enforcement officers in Montgomery County. The arrest came after over a week of detailed investigation into the death of Gennia Grimes. By this point, investigators had gathered enough evidence to take legal action against him. He was no longer treated as a witness, but as a primary suspect. Authorities charged Rogers with capital murder. This charge was based on the belief that Gennia's death was not an accident or suicide. The legal term capital means that the crime was considered extremely serious, and it could carry the most severe penalties under Alabama law. Police made it clear that their findings supported the conclusion that Gennia's death was a planned act during a domestic situation. The arrest report included forensic details that strengthened the case. Investigators pointed out that the angle of the gunshot did not support Rogers' version of events. Laboratory tests were done to examine the weapon, fingerprints, and gunshot residue. The data suggested that someone else had handled the gun, and the shot was not self-inflicted. Witness interviews also played a key role in the arrest. Friends and relatives of Gennia provided statements about the couple's relationship. Officers documented signs of prior abuse, financial control, and emotional manipulation. Although there was no history of police calls, the private testimony from those closest to her painted concerning picture. Rogers was taken to Montgomery County Detention Facility immediately after his arrest. He was held without bond, meaning he could not pay to get out of jail while waiting for trial. His first court appearance was scheduled to allow a judge to review the charges. Media outlets across Alabama and beyond began covering the case closely. The Montgomery County Sheriff's Office released a statement confirming that the incident was being treated as a domestic violence homicide. They urged the public to be aware of signs of danger in relationships. The sheriff expressed gratitude to Gennia's family for coming forward with information that helped move the investigation forward. The case entered the pretrial phase following Rogers' arrest. Legal teams began preparing their arguments while the public watched closely. The courtroom would now become the next location where the facts would be laid out. Prosecutors would rely on physical evidence, expert testimony, and witness reports to prove their case against Rogers. The next steps would determine how justice would be handled in Gennia's name. On April 12, 2025, family, friends, and community members gathered at Antioch Baptist Church North in Atlanta, Georgia, to say goodbye to Gennia Grimes. The funeral service was held just over 2 weeks after her death. People filled the church pews wearing shirts with her photo and name. The atmosphere was quiet, with many in attendance still shocked by how quickly her life ended. The service included speeches, music, and moments of silence. Her former classmates and members of the Alabama State University Honey Bees dance team shared memories of her energy and dedication. A slideshow showed clips of her dancing, studying, and holding her baby boy. It was a clear reminder of how much she had accomplished at only 21 years old. Several speakers focused on her role as a mother, student, and performer. Her professors described her as determined and focused, always asking questions and staying ahead in class. Her friends remember how she helped others stay positive, even when things weren't easy. She had big plans for her future and was only months away from graduation. Outside the church, posters and balloons surrounded the steps. People who never met Gennia showed up to pay their respects. Some had seen her viral dance videos online. Others followed the case through news reports and social media posts. Her name had reached beyond her city and campus. She became a symbol for young women who were working hard and chasing goals. A GoFundMe campaign had been created days before the funeral to support the family with funeral costs and to help care for her baby. It quickly gained attention, with supporters donating and sharing the link across platforms. The funds were used to cover burial expenses and provide support for the baby's needs in the months ahead. News stations and digital outlets reported on the funeral, posting clips and quotes from family members. Headlines highlighted the sadness of her death and the importance of paying attention to early warning signs in relationships. The story stayed active online, and more people began using hashtags connected to her name to raise awareness about her case. The funeral marked the final goodbye to Gennia in person, but her story continued to grow. Her family stayed committed to keeping her memory alive and pushing for justice. What started as a private loss became a public call for accountability. The days following the funeral were filled with reflection, support, and a strong demand for answers in her name. After Rogers McLeod Jr. was charged, the legal case moved into its early stages. The court system began by scheduling a preliminary hearing to review the evidence collected by police. This stage allowed prosecutors to explain why Rogers was being held for capital murder. The judge reviewed documents, statements, and early lab results before allowing the case to move forward. Attorneys representing the state focused on building a timeline. They used phone records, surveillance data, and forensic details to explain the events that happened on March 27th. The report submitted to court included a breakdown of the crime scene, interviews with family members, and test results from the firearm. Prosecutors said the evidence showed clear signs of intentional harm. The defense team representing Rogers requested additional time to examine the materials presented by law enforcement. They filed legal motions to obtain full access to police records, hospital findings, and forensic lab reports. The legal process required both sides to share evidence during the discovery phase, which allowed the court to remain fair and balanced. Bail was denied once again due to the seriousness of the charges. The judge cited public safety and flight risk concerns. Rogers remained in custody at the Montgomery County Detention Facility while awaiting trial. His legal team began preparing arguments to challenge the state's version of events. Hearings were scheduled to address pretrial issues over the following months. Gennia's family continued attending each hearing. They wore shirts with her photo and carried folders filled with court papers. The courtroom was often filled with observers, some of whom had followed the case through news updates and social media posts. Reporters were present at nearly every appearance, sharing updates with the public after each step in court. Legal experts analyzing the case pointed out that capital murder charges are among the most serious. If convicted, Rogers could face life in prison or the death penalty. The trial would include witness testimony, expert analysis, and official reports from state investigators. Both the prosecution and defense would have a chance to present their full arguments during trial. At the time of writing, the case remains open. Court officials are working to set a trial date, and both legal teams continue preparing for proceedings. The community waits for the final outcome, while Gennia's family focuses on staying involved. The legal process is ongoing, and all sides are expected to present their evidence in a full trial setting. Gennia Grimes is remembered not only for how her life ended, but for the person she was becoming. At just 21 years old, she had already built a strong presence in her school and online community. Her plans for the future included completing her degree and entering the legal field. She had begun mapping out her goals long before her final semester. Her talent for dancing gained attention across social media, where her videos were frequently shared. Many people discovered her through those clips, admiring her creativity and energy. Though she started by entertaining online audiences, she was also serious about making a difference through education. Her ambition reached beyond the screen and into her everyday efforts. Friends and classmates described her as dependable, smart, and motivated. She often encouraged others to stay on track with their schoolwork and offered help when she could. Teachers noticed her consistency and focus. At Alabama State University, she stood out both as a student and as a team member in extracurricular activities. Following her death, several student groups and local organizations began using her name in campaigns about personal safety and relationship awareness. Her story became a case study in conversations about young adults, private struggles, and warning signs that often go unnoticed. It served as a point of reflection in classrooms and online forums. A scholarship fund was later announced in her memory, with plans to assist other young women studying criminal justice. Family members said Gennia would have supported anything that helped others succeed, especially women trying to rise above their circumstances. The fund aimed to provide tuition support and mentorship for selected students each year. Her son remains in the care of family, surrounded by people who knew Gennia well. They continue to share stories about her life, her goals, and her personality. Those closest to her say they will teach him about who she was and the values she believed in. Items like photos, clothes, and notebooks have been kept safe to pass on when he's older. The case of Gennia Grimes left a lasting impression across multiple communities. Her life, though short, impacted others in real ways. While her family waits for legal justice, they continue to keep her memory active through education, storytelling, and support efforts. The journey to the courtroom may still be ongoing, but Gennia's voice carries forward through the people she inspired. The death of Gennia Grimes led to public discussions far beyond her family and school. Across her hometown in Atlanta and her college community in Montgomery, people began organizing talks, group meetings, and awareness events. Her case reminded many that warning signs in relationships can often go unnoticed until it's too late. Multiple schools and youth centers began offering workshops that focus on identifying risky behavior in dating. Guest speakers, including survivors of similar experiences, were invited to share their knowledge. The programs encourage students to seek help when they notice controlling behavior or emotional pressure in their lives. Local churches and neighborhood groups responded by hosting support sessions and outreach drives. These gatherings were designed to educate parents, young adults, and mentors. In these meetings, Gennia's story was often used to explain how quickly situations can change when problems are hidden or ignored. News outlets continued covering updates about the case and its social impact. Journalists revisited the timeline, spoke with advocates, and explored new ways communities could better protect vulnerable individuals. Her name appeared in articles, TV segments, and newsletters centered around safety education and youth protection. Several online creators who had followed her journey used their platforms to spread information. Through posts, live streams, and short videos, they told their audiences about the importance of taking early warnings seriously. They also helped raise money for programs that offer help to students and young parents facing pressure or danger in silence. Gennia's college campus expanded its counseling services, offering more access to students who needed to speak with professionals. Flyers were placed in dormitories, hallways, and student centers with information about how to report threats or ask for support. Faculty members were also encouraged to stay alert and to check in more regularly with their students. Even months after the funeral, her name remained active in public conversation. Her story became part of school lesson plans, nonprofit campaigns, and Awareness Month programming. Though her life ended unexpectedly, the results of her case continue to inspire action and bring people together with one shared goal, helping others avoid the same fate. What began as a local investigation in Alabama quickly turned into a widely reported story across the United States. Gennia Grimes' case was picked up by multiple news organizations, both online and on television. Journalists focused on the sudden loss of a young college student, the nature of the charges against her boyfriend, and the broader issues tied to young adult relationships. Within days, major news outlets included the story in their national crime segments. Digital publications highlighted key facts, such as her academic background, the timeline of events, and statements from her family. Photos from her social media accounts and dance performances were featured alongside articles, bringing more attention to her personal story. Television news programs covered the arrest and court proceedings in their evening reports. Short video clips showed scenes from the courtroom, the funeral, and campus memorials. Anchor teams used these reports to explain the seriousness of the charges and the legal process that would follow. Some segments included interviews with experts discussing similar cases across the country. The case also gained momentum through online platforms where users shared posts about Gennia's life and the legal developments. Hashtags connected to her name began trending, helping the story reach more people. Personal stories, reaction, and updates flooded timelines on apps like Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. Many viewers expressed concern, shock, and support. Influencers and public figures with large followings posted about the case, expanding its reach to new audiences. Some used their platforms to highlight the need for safer environments on college campuses. Others focus on helping young women recognize early signs of danger. These posts brought the case into daily online conversation across multiple age groups. Radio hosts and podcast creators included the case in their weekly episodes. In these formats, they reviewed the known facts and discussed the larger issues raised by the investigation. This helped maintain public interest even after the initial headlines faded. Long-form content allowed listeners to understand the full picture behind the crime and the response. By the time the first month had passed, the story had become one of the most discussed true crime cases of the season. From social media users to national reporters, Gennia's name was now recognized across states and communities. While the legal case moved forward quietly, public interest remained steady, driven by coverage from nearly every type of media. After the death of Gennia Grimes, her 9-month-old son was placed in the care of her family. They made immediate plans to provide him with stability, safety, and love. Relatives stepped in without delay, ensuring that his basic needs were met, while also helping him transition into a new daily routine without his mother. Family members created a support system around the child to reduce confusion and fear. A consistent schedule was introduced, and familiar faces surrounded him. His mother's belongings were carefully stored, including baby photos, clothes, and personal items that would later help him learn about who she was and what she meant to others. The GoFundMe campaign that had been started for funeral expenses was later updated to include long-term care plans for the baby. Donations were used to support childcare, medical needs, clothing, and savings. Community members, friends, and strangers contributed, hoping to ease the financial weight placed on the grieving family. Legal documents were updated to transfer guardianship to trusted relatives. These steps ensured that the child would not face uncertainty, while the criminal case against his father remained active. Lawyers guided the family through this process, helping them secure the legal protection necessary to keep him in a safe environment. Photographs of Gennia holding her son became a permanent fixture in the household. Stories about her kindness, energy, and education goals were slowly added to family scrapbooks. As he grows, he will receive age-appropriate explanations about his background, guided by people who want him to remember the positive parts of her life. Health checkups, early education services, and emotional care were all added to his routine. The goal was to keep his life structured and healthy while allowing him to grow without fear. Relatives balanced their grief with their new parenting roles, focusing on creating a home that felt both safe and nurturing. Although he may never remember her voice or touch, the people raising him remain committed to making sure her presence stays part of the story. Through their care, her memory will continue in everyday moments, bedtime routines, holidays, and family gatherings. His life carries forward, connected forever to the legacy left behind. Following the news of Gennia Grimes' death, Alabama State University began reviewing its internal policies related to student well-being. Administrators met to discuss how support systems could be improved to identify students who may be experiencing personal hardship or safety concerns outside the classroom. The university acknowledged the need for stronger outreach. Counseling services were expanded to include more availability for students seeking help with mental health, relationship stress, and personal safety. Additional staff were hired, and new hours were added to make services easier to access. Flyers and emails were distributed across campus with instructions on how to schedule private sessions without fear of judgment. Faculty and staff participated in updated training designed to help them recognize signs of distress. Professors were encouraged to engage with students beyond academics and report any unusual behavior or missed class patterns. This training was meant to create more eyes and ears throughout the campus who could notice when something was wrong. Student organizations took initiative by organizing forums and awareness events. Campus groups began hosting panels where safety professionals and legal experts gave presentations. Peer leaders were invited to guide conversations and share information about setting boundaries, seeking help, and building safe environments both on and off campus. The university's Title IX office updated its outreach strategy to better inform students about their rights and available protections. Brochures were printed, workshops were launched, and online portals were improved to simplify the process for reporting harassment or control in dating relationships. The office aimed to make its presence more visible and approachable. Outside Alabama State, other schools began discussing similar improvements. Several historically black colleges and universities, HBCUs, shared resource guides and best practices with one another to strengthen safety across campuses. These conversations focused on preventing harm before it happens by fostering trust between students and campus officials. While nothing could undo what had happened, educational leaders agreed that awareness and prevention were necessary steps forward. The death of one student became the reason multiple institutions began looking more carefully at how to protect the lives of others. Policies changed, systems adjusted, and entire campuses made space for conversations that had long been overdue. Here at Unseen Crime Dossiers, we're driven by a mission to uncover hidden realities, honor forgotten voices, and keep their memories alive. If the story made you pause, reflect, or feel something, there's more coming that will challenge you even deeper. Make sure to hit subscribe, tap the like button, and turn on that notification bell so you never miss a case. We're dropping new episodes regularly, and trust us, what's ahead is even more chilling. Before you go, we want to hear from you. What moment hit you the hardest? Drop it in the comments. Your perspective matters, and your voice helps keep these stories alive. Until next time, stay alert, stay informed, and never stop seeking the truth, because every life deserves to be heard.